And happy Tuesday afternoon or evening, depending on location. And it is the beginning of May. What can I say? It's new month, new shows. We're going to have a lot going on. I know we have Comic Palooza at the end of this month, Memorial Day weekend. That will be a fun show to do. We have media coverage on that. But this is the conversation, not the con hour. And we are here today with horror writer, author Katie Marie.
Oh.
How's everything going where you're at?
Yeah, not too bad. We're finally seeing signs of spring. We've just entered No Mow May, which is where everyone's supposed to not mow their lawns so that it helps all the local wildlife and whatnot. Also gives me an excuse not to mow my lawn, so booyah.
I'm laughing because outside my window I hear a lawnmower going. So we obviously don't have no mow May. But I have to ask, because I did read that you got into writing while you were going to university. What got you into horror writing? Was it something happened or?
It's all my mum's fault. All of it. I completely blame my mum. She's dreadful. She's not. She's lovely. But yeah, when I was very small and of the age where parents read bedtime stories to their children, my mum read me bedtime stories, and she read me Clive Barker when I was very small. The Thief of Always. I don't know if you've read it. It's bloomin' awesome, and it really, really stuck with me for basically the rest of my life. And almost all of my fascination with horror, I can basically look back at it and see where it connects to that particular story, and I'm like, oh, that's where the Lovecraft stuff comes in. That's where the Stephen King stuff comes in, because it's all reflected back in that story. And yeah, that's basically the point where I'm like, yeah, I can put a pin in it. That's where it started. Cheers, ma'am.
I just can't imagine being read a bedtime story of Dracula or anything like that. And it's like, there you go.
I have often wondered that if mum had read me The Hobbit, or if she'd read War of the Worlds or something, would I have actually been a different kind of person? Would I have been a different kind of writer? Would I have done fantasy? Would I have done sci-fi? And sometimes I'm not sure, but more often than not, I'm like, nah, I can't see it being any different than it is.
You ought to try mixing some of those.
I have. I've tried doing some sci-fi, and I'm gonna try again. Because, yeah, first attempts are always spectacular.
Well, I mean, put sci-fi with your horror too.
Well, this
If you
is it.
haven't heard that, I think would definitely be fun.
Would be very cool. I do like the sci-fi horror video games and whatnot as well. There.
Well, you
They're
have like
always
aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There you
Have you played the Alien game where you're like creeping
No.
around the spaceship and the aliens sort of just wandering around, and you're just a random person dealing with this xenomorph just dossing around your spaceship, and it's like, cool, great. What can I do? I can hide badly.
Badly.
Badly. My skill level is low, so
They sniffed you out
very
There you
quickly. They can probably hear my controller shaking, because there is actually a thing in the controller where it can hear you. So it's like, oh no.
And here I thought it was just the vibrations from the ship crashing.
It's like, no, no, it's just my anxiety. It's fine.
Yeah, like I said, you never know what we're going to talk about on these shows. So, what was your inspiration that got you started writing?
I think it was probably in my teenage years. I'd always been a really voracious reader, unsurprisingly. And the first time I say wrote anything properly was when I was about 13. And it was dreadful because it was the first thing I'd ever wrote when I was 13. But I just finished reading the very first book done by Darren Shan, the Cirque du Freak book. Went on to be 12 other books, and it was a really good series. I loved that when I was a teenager. But then after I'd read that several times, I went on and started writing my own stuff. So I don't know if I credit that actual book or if it was just the natural progression of things. So yeah, short answer, I started writing when I was a young teenager.
Well, that's always, I mean, it's good inspiration to have. I think my biggest influence, I think, would have been R.A. Salvatore with his books.
Ah, I know that name. I'm sure I've probably picked up one of those.
Uh, Fantasy author. I think he has like 20 plus books in his series. He's he actually
Prolific.
wrote he actually wrote one of the Star Wars books too.
Oh, cool.
So he's a really good author. Love to have him eventually, but
That would be cool.
of course Stephen King and all of them would be great to have, no doubt
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. But where can people find you at also?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook at Katie Marie Wright. I'm on Twitter, again, Katie Marie Wright. I have a website, shockingly enough, katiemariewright.com. I have a theme in case you can't tell. Yeah, and I'm on Instagram, same again. So I'm all over the place really. Although on Instagram it's mostly just pictures of my cat. So
Now, excuse me. Now with all this, can they read some of your stories on these?
yes, yeah, I put some stories up on my website. I do short stories as well as novellas and whatnot, and some of them do just end up popped up on the website. I have my own YouTube channel as well, and there is my one and only attempt at doing my own audio story. It's great. But it's still up there. I haven't taken it down. I might do eventually if I ever
Well,
get better at it.
I actually think it would be harder reading your own story
Oh
than to
God,
read somebody else's.
yeah. It was really difficult. I'd find myself sitting there with the pages in front of me, and I'd be sitting there reading through it, and I'd be like, "Oh God, why did I say that?" And it's like, "God damn it, the mic's still on. Now I have to re-record that whole bit again." It's like you're still editing while you're reading it, and it's like, goodness,
The IG pictures of my cat got me laughing.
that's what
Hello,
Instagram's for,
Victoria.
surely.
But yeah, I can try. I would actually thought about trying to read my own, and it's like I sat down, and of course I'm able to do it behind the studio before I try anything, and it's like I am just so monotone in my own book. And it's like,
I hate the sound of my own voice. It's dreadful, but everyone I speak to says the same thing.
hmm I do hate the sound of my voice. It's like it's hard for me to go back and listen to any of my
Yeah,
podcasts, and it's like, oh lordy, I
but
sound horrid. How
this
do
is it.
people put up with me?
I promise you don't. You don't sound horrid at all. But I know exactly what you mean. When I bought a mic and I had all these grand dreams in inverted commas, I was like, I'm gonna record like all my short stories that I don't send out. I'm gonna have this whole channel and it's just gonna be loads of short stories and I could do my own audiobook. I did one and then I was like, in the drawer you go.
Never again.
Bye.
Now, see, you ought to do that with other people's stories. Maybe give it a little bit of a review because I think that would make you feel more comfortable at first.
It might well do. It might well do. If I can get a cool voice modulator thing that I can just clip onto my microphone. If I can get
I
one that
did.
makes me sound like Darth Vader, that would be amazing.
Oh
That would
lordy!
be the coolest thing. That's what I want for my birthday.
Anybody watching, you now know what she wants for her birthday.
And it's in
And
a
what?
couple of weeks.
I think they make them
I'm
actually.
pretty sure they do. Gonna say if I could make myself sound like, I don't know if you can see very well, but if I could make myself sound like Darth Vader, I'd be well done.
Well, as long as you don't speak like Yoda at the same time.
Oh God, no. No,
that
I don't think the dyslexia would work well with that. Oh no.
that
Did I
that
say
would
all
be
the words?
that would be a horror story on itself.
It really would. The horror is trying to understand what the heck is going on.
Yes.
Because we
Now,
don't know.
I have to ask because I know you're over there in England. How is the weather this time of year for y'all?
It's actually, well, you know how much the Brits love talking about the bloody weather, but it's actually the topic of conversation at the moment because it is the 2nd of May and it should be getting a wee bit warmer now, and it bloody isn't. It's still really chilly, and I'm proper annoyed. I was like, the blimmin' year they put the blimmin' gas price. I'm trying not to swear in case you can't tell, but the year that they put the gas prices up, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna stay cold for ages. The weather's just doing it to spite me. It is getting better, but the wind is still chilly.
Well, I should have given you the little bit more beforehand. We don't care what you say on the show.
Oh,
I do.
fantastic.
Trust me, we've had our episodes on here where it's ding, 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 ding.
Oh dear.
We've had to put explicit language a few times.
Oh dear. See, I try not to on things like YouTube because the algorithm will come and like smack you over the head with a pillowcase full of like oranges or something.
I always put not made for children, so
There you go.
they don't care how we act as long as we act decently dressed. Let's put it that way.
I was, I was literally just about to make a Futurama joke. I was like, let's make our own show with blackjack and hookers.
Oh God. There we go.
See, there you go.
Oh man. So we were actually talking before the show about driving. Now, have you ever thought the way you were talking about your driving, have you ever thought about putting that into a horror story?
I did actually do this years ago. One of the very first short stories I ever got published was called Sobriety Test.
Oh God.
And it was obviously a short story about a group of lovely young people who were driving home on a very rainy night on a big dark road, and they got pulled over by this random asshole traffic cop. And he was giving them a proper hard time, and they weren't doing anything bad, but he was really unpleasant to them, shall we say. And then they drove off, and this horrible traffic cop turns up and he's like trying to drive them off the road, and all this other nonsense goes on, and they end up doing a lovely flip, not unlike the one we were talking about earlier. And they end up in a river, and it's a whole mess. But again, long story short, turns out that the traffic cop himself, he was a ghosty, and he'd gotten killed himself on the road by drunk drivers. They knocked him off his bike, and now he's like
No.
out for revenge.
Yeah,
Every young driver's got to be stopped. How dare they?
all the stuff that goes through my head when I hear stories like this. Now I want to go back and watch The Wraith again. I mean, that was actually a good movie. I don't know if you've seen that one or not. I think it was with Charlie Sheen.
God, I've watched so many. Whenever I think of horror stories on the road, the only one that comes to mind is Dead End. That was bloomin' marvelous. I really like that one.
Well, this one, they killed him while he was, I guess, I can't remember the whole story, but he got killed, I think, in the trunk of his car or something.
As
But
you
he
do.
came back as a wraith, and then he was actually the car itself, kind of like a Christine ghost story.
I was gonna say Christine, but yeah, I've not seen that one.
That was actually pretty good. It's called The Wraith. So if you want
Watch.
I think it was made back
Google.
in, God, was that the late 80s or early 90s that show was
Ah,
made? So it's
see,
been around a while,
the old ones are the best ones. They're just so much fun.
but it was definitely a B movie.
Oh, see,
And those are
again,
even better.
fun.
Those are definitely better, in my opinion. But I do want to thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for
And
having me.
and for everybody else who's just tuning in, please make sure to click our subscribe button. And yep, and the bell for notifications. We're moving up on our YouTube ranks, so hopefully we'll be getting a little closer. But we will be back. I think the show was scheduled for tonight, but unfortunately we had one of the co-hosts get sick, so we might be changing that show to a later date. But until next time, everyone, adios.
Bye.